Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, just Daf It. We're doing Kesubos Daf Sadi, number 90. 90 is a big number. We're also starting the 10th parak today. So that's Kesubos Erev Yom Kippur. It's early in the morning here, around 10:30. I think the shear, Daf Yomi is relentless, doesn't stop. Let's get started. It's a short day. The Mishnah on the bottom of Pei Tet Amud Beis. I'm sorry if there's some background noise over here. It's kind of difficult to find the place. I'm actually in the rabbi's officially office over here. I got his chair, his rabbi's chair over here. So it's pretty cool to be in this place. Mishnah says Shnei Gitin v'Shnei Kesubos. On the bottom of Pei Tet Amud Beis, a woman produces two gets and two Kesubos, two separate Kesubos. Go v'Shnei Kesubos. Meaning from the same lady, presumably. And the second ksuba was written after the first get. So therefore, he must have remarried her, and he decided to give her another ksuba. If he wants to mechayim himself another ksuba, just like he can give it Tosefes ksuba, he can give another ksuba. So she can collect two ksubos. Shtei ksubos v'ge'echad. However, she produces two ksubos and one get. So the two ksubos were preceded the get. So therefore, just writing another ksuba, the husband just wanted to have a backup ksuba. So therefore, o ksuba shnei gitin, or she has two gets and one ksuba, o ksuba v'get o misa, or she has a ksuba and a get and a misa and a documentation that he died. Eina go ve'ela ksuba achas. In all these cases, she's only able to collect one ksuba, because even if in the last two cases, let's say they were get and misa, so right, he remarried her based on the original ksuba. He only planned on giving her one ksuba from the first marriage. He remarried, he didn't write her a new ksuba. He didn't pay the ksuba. He's going to give it after the death or after the second get. And in the first case, right, he wrote two ksubas during one marriage. One was a backup ksuba. Shemagarish is yishto. Explain the last two cases. V'achzira, menas ksuba rishon machzira. When he remarries the same woman, he's marrying her on condition that he's giving her the first get. He didn't pay any get yet. Right, if she has two ksubos from one marriage, right, and then she got a get, so she can collect one ksuba, but it doesn't say which ksuba she can collect. She can collect from either ksuba. Say this is a refutation of what Rav Nachman Shmuel said in the name of Shmuel. The Amar Rav Nachman Shmuel. If someone writes two loan documents, right, I borrowed money from one person, and I write him a loan document that I owe him money, and then I wrote another loan document that I owe him money. Right? Bitel Sheni Arishan, he holds the second one validates the first one, meaning if he loses the second one, he can't go out with the first one. So the same thing over here, right? The second ksuba means the first one he can't collect with anymore. There's a lav itmar olam or a papa was not stated. The mother of Nachman, the osif be dikla to Tosefes kasve. Hachanam maybe the osif law. So Rav Papa said in the name of Rav Nachman admits that if he added money, he added something in the second ksuba, which wasn't in the first ksuba, so therefore he meant that she should have two ksubos, right? Because the second one is stronger than the first one. If she decides she wants to collect with the first one, she can collect with it. It doesn't invalidate it in that case. Here also, the second ksuba guaranteed her more money than the first ksuba. Kana Rabbana, right, says, I would see a get, the ksuba misa. Right, she takes out a get and a ksuba, and a death certificate. The husband died. Top of Sadio and Al, if you can get kodem ksuba, if the get precedes the ksuba, go b'shtei ksubos. She collects two ksubos. Because the second ksuba was written after the first get. Ksuba kedemus the get. If the ksuba comes before the get, ina go be'ela ksuba achas. If the ksuba comes before the get, she only collects one ksuba. Shemagaris isha ve'achzira amnas ksuba rishon hachzira. If the ksuba precedes the get, so she only collects one ksuba, because when he remarried her, and he only has one ksuba. Right, meaning if the first get preceded if the first ksuba preceded the get, so the ksuba that when he remarried her, he didn't intend to give her another ksuba. He just assumed that the first ksuba from the first marriage, when he remarried her, he's marrying on condition he's going to pay her that original ksuba and not a new ksuba, like the Mishnah said. The Mishnah says, a new Mishnah, Katan she'esio aviv. sometimes we learn that the father can marry his daughter off. Sometimes he marries his son off at 7 years old. He's not marrying his son off. Ksubasa kayemes, and then he grows older. He becomes gadol, 13 years old. He didn't write a new ksuba, so the ksuba stays in place. Shamnaskein kayema. He intended to stay married to her based on the original ksuba. Gershon is Gaira Ishto Imo, right? Let's say two goyim, and they converted in the middle of their marriage. Ksubasa kayemes. They wrote a ksuba while they were not Jewish. Sorry, the background noise is a minion in the next adjoining room over here. So I try to pay attention. Gershon is Gaira Ishto Imo. They converted and they wrote a ksuba when they're not Jewish. They like Jewish law. They write ksubas. So and then they didn't write another ksuba. Ksubasa kayemes Hunaskein kiyama. They didn't write a new ksuba. The ksuba from their non-Jewish days is still effective because the fact they didn't write something new means he intended to keep the original ksuba. The Gemara says, "Amarav Huna lo shanu ela mano masayim." We're only talking about a mano masayim with Tosefes ein lo. Even though we said a katan or a ger that converts or a katan who grows older, the original ksuva is intact. That's only the mano masayim, the basic ksuva, 100 or 200. But if the ksuva has a tosefes, he added more money. Ein la, she doesn't get that. Yehuda Amar afilu tosefes yesh. Yehuda says no. Even tosefes, she gets even if they didn't write anything new in the ksuva. Mesive, they asked the question on Brisa. Chidshu, if they wrote a new ksuva. No, tell us Masha Chidshu. She gets extra money when they grows up or when they're Magayir. Chidshu in, lo Chidshu lo, only if they wrote a new one. If they write a new one, she only gets the Manu Masayim. Rav says, lo, Ema af Masha Chidshu. No, Brisa meant to say, Rabbi Yehuda says that even what they're Machadish, they write a new ksuva, she gets even more, right? But of course she would get the Sefas even if they're not Machadish something, new ksuva. Gemara says, "V'hal Taniach," and the Brisa, another Brisa doesn't say this. Chidshu and tells Mashin Chidshu. Lo Chidshu, if they didn't write a nuksu, Psula Gova Masai, Lamana Mona. It says all she collects is Masai and Ramona, not Tosefes. Tiyufta Rav Yehuda. This is a refutation of Rav Yehuda. The Gemara explains how Rav Yehuda made a mistake. Rav Yehuda, Masisin Atiyah, he made a mistake from the Mishnah. Kusavar, Ksuvasa Kayama Akula Milsa. The Ksuva is retained even if he wrote a Tosefes before when he was a Katan or a non-Jew. It goes on everything. It's not really true. All the Mishnah meant to say, the Ksuba Kayemes, the Manu Masayim is Kayemes, because technically, I mean, it's hard to understand exactly what's going on over here. That he wrote a Ksuba as a Katan is not really effective. Also, as a non-Jew, it's not really effective according to Jewish law. However, the Manu Masayim is a basic, like I've said many times, is a basic chol midoraisa that you owe for acquiring the virginity of a psula and for the rights to be boel an almana. That is a part. It's a din doraisa apart from the ksuba. Din imamin is apart from the ksuba. It could apply to non-Jews also, and it could apply to a katan also. Those rights, the rights you have for a katan or for a non-Jew, and therefore that remains. The ksuba document, though, is invalid if written by a katan or it was guaranteed by a katan or guaranteed by a non-Jew. Hadron HaKosif Ishto. That concludes Kosif Ishto. Let's move on to the 10th parak. Here we go. Mishaya Nasu Shtei Nashim. A little complicated. This parak talks about monetary debts. He married to two women, right? More than one wife. Is it possible? Yeah, it just says he married two women. Mace, Arishona. Mace. Sorry, the husband died. Right? He leaves two wives living. Harishona Kudemu Tushnia. Now both of the wives are Oda Ksuba. So the Rishona, she got married. Her chov came before the second chov. The Rishona Kudemu Tushnia. She collects first. If there's not enough money in the estate to collect two ksubas, she collects first. Her 200 or 100 or whatever she's guaranteed. The sefas also. And then whatever's left, the shniya can take. If they end up dying, the wives died, the husband dies, and the two wives died. So the Yorshe Rishona, they inherit the chov from their mother. They come before the Yorshe Shniya. Nasa Rishona Mesa. If he married the first one and then she died, Nasa Shniya Mesu. Let's say he married a first wife and then she dies. So when she dies, he inherits her ksuba. However, there is a concept we learn on Daf Nun Beis of Kesubos being different, that his children that are from her are also entitled to her ksuba even after Misa. Then he marries a second woman, Mesu, and then he dies. So Shniya B'Yoshea Kol Min Yoshea Rishona. Therefore, in that case, when there's only enough money for one ksuba or to pay the entirety of one ksuba, the second woman comes first because she's alive. Right, when he dies before her, predeceases her, she's a Baal Chov. She's a creditor. She's like, he owes money. She collects over there. Kedusas ben Dikrin is only Derabanan, or in Iyad ben Sin, I may explain a different reason. Not just Derabanan, it's also because it's a different type of Chov. Than a regular Baal Chov. So the second one and her Yorshim come first. The Yorshir Rishona to the Yorshir Rishona who entitled to Kesubos ben Dikrin. The Gemara says, it says the fact that the first one comes before the second one. In the case where, right, the husband is married to two wives, he predeceases both of them, right? The language of the Mishnah doesn't say the Rishona, the first one, has one. The Shniya doesn't have ein laklal. She doesn't have a right to any money at all. The Kadma Shniya it implies from the Mishnah that the second one is only, let's say, $300. They're both owed a ksuba of $200. So if the second one comes and grabs $200, she can keep it. Wait a second. We see from this, right? If you have two loan docs, two people you owe money to, and the first one, right, establishes a chov, in June, and the second one in August. So even if the one in August comes, he has a later chov, and he collects mashagaba gaba. But the Evid, if he collects, he was tofes. It works. So the Gemara rejects. Maybe I can tell you mashagaba lo gaba. It doesn't work for Baal Chov Me'ukar. He's not entitled to anything. The first dibs have to go to the Baal Chov Rishon. My kodemis lagamri kasani. What do you mean kodemis? It means they come first entirely. Meaning if their tofa doesn't work, kedisnan, where do we find a lashon like this? Bein kodem lebas, right? A son inherits before a bas. Now, not just inherit before a bas. If a daughter tries to take inheritance from the son, it doesn't work. All right, she doesn't inherit her father at all if there's a son. Ikad Amri, a different way of saying this dialogue. The fact the Mishnah doesn't say that if the second one comes and takes before the Rishona, we don't take out a ram. Sorry, the fact that so we see that if she was topis, we say that if she does take it, we remove it from her hands. What he takes before the first Baal Chov, it's invalid what he took. Emalach. Oh, the Emalach Mara rejects that. Masha Gaba Gaba, technically you're tofes. You're Baal Chov Mochar. You could, with the Evid, take, if you took it, it's yours. Because the Seif of our Mishnah wanted to talk about the Shniya Kod Min Yarsha Rishona, right? In that case, top of Sadi Amad Beis, in that case, right, she comes entirely first, and Kesubos ben Dikrin, the first wife, is, you can't be tofes from the second one. Tananami Rishona Gdem L'Shniya. Therefore, in the Reisha, the Mishnah also says the Rishona comes before the Shniya. However, the halacha is different. In the Reisha over there, it technically, if the Shniya is Gove, she could be Gove. It remains with her. Nasa es Rishona. He marries the first one and then he dies. The Sefer of the Mishnah says. Then he marries the second one and then he dies. Right? So Shmami not flas. So the Mishnah says Shniya v'Yarsha. They get the first dibs, and then the Kesubos ben Dikrin of the wife. Shmami not flas. We learn three things from the Sefer of the Mishnah. Shmami not achas b'chayav achas v'moso yish and Kesubos ben Dikrin. Right? Normally, the classical case of Kesubos ben Dikrin is a husband of the wife. He's married to two women, and then the two women predecease the husband. They die. So, and then the husband dies. So the husband dies. Right? He has kids from the first wife. He has kids from the second wife. So normally, they would inherit Yerusha from their father evenly. However, Kesubos ben Dikrin, they're masakin that a woman, right, who's going to marry, she's going to promise a big dowry from her father, a big suva. The father doesn't want to give a big dowry if he's going to lose it. So therefore, they're masakin Kesubos ben Dikrin that before we split the inheritance in half between the sons of the first wife and the second wife, first we give the ksuva of the first mother to the sons of the first mother, and then ksuva of the second wife to the sons of the second wife. And it could be one is ksuva is substantially bigger than the other one, and then we split the Yerusha. So here's a unique case where we say Kesubos ben Dikrin happens where, right, he predeceases the second wife. Not that both wives died in his lifetime. One died in his lifetime, which would necessitate Kesubos ben Dikrin, but then he married somebody else, and she died first. Now he owes her ksuba as a Baal Chov creditor. She has a Baal Chov, Still, there's a concept of indifferent, and they would, I mean, even though the shnia comes first, but they're still entitled to take after the Ketus B'Nidif, to take the ksuba of their mother before you divide everything. All it says is that first, if there's only not enough money, then the shnia of Yerusha Kod. And if there is enough money, then we would give the Ketus B'Nidif to the children of the first wife. We're not worried about them fighting, because we're worried about them fighting. Maybe they're going to win Masaka in this. Mimai. How do you know this from our mission? The Tani Shnia of Yerusha Kod and the Yerusha Yerusha. The Mikdamu with the Kadmi, they come first. Ha Ikov. If there's extra money, Shakli, they take money of the Ksuba of the first wife. Ishmamina. What else do we learn from our mission? Ksuba Nas Motor Lechaverta. Normally, when you have Ksuba being different, right, each one takes the Ksuba of their mother. There has to be a Moser dinar. There has to be something left over that they can split evenly. A dinar is significant in halacha. So they split the dinar in half, and they don't want to make Ksuba different when they get rid or abrogate a Yerusha Doraisa. So here, it sounds from our Mishnah, even if there's only exactly enough for both Ksubas, right, the second Ksuba is considered a Mosar, and that's considered a Yerusha, Mekayim the Yerusha Doraisa. Mimai, how do you know this? When Lokasani, Yesha Mosar dinar, doesn't say in our Mishnah there's an extra dinar. Fine, Mishmami not. Third thing, Ksuba is going to be different, Lotar from the Mishabdi. It's going to be different, even though they collect it, but they can't collect it from property they have a lien on. It's going to be different, right? You're inheriting the Ksuba, so Ksuba has a lien on property. He's not going to die in Tar from Mishabdi, Leisu B'nei Rishon, Lotar Fina L'Bnei Shia. After they collect the Ksuba is going to be different, let them go back and collect. They didn't get the full amount. The Ksuba wasn't enough for the full amount. Go ahead and collect from the children of the second wife. So you see, there's no lien. They did could have been different. It doesn't. Not even though a regular ksuba has a lien on the husband's property. Ksuba's been different. Does not have a lien on his property. Now it's significant why he only has bnei shnia and not from the mother if she's still alive. She's collecting. I'll explain that more in Iyot Ben Sia. Masla Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi asked the following question: how can you draw some of these conclusions from a Mishnah? Mimai. How do you know? Dilma la'olam emolach. The first deduction from our Mishnah, we induce from our Mishnah, the deduce from our Mishnah, that if it's achas b'chayav achas moshe, there is ksuas been different. How do you know? There is no entitlement to ksuas been different. My codeman, what does it mean they come first? Meaning it comes first for inheritance, meaning the inheritance, part of the inheritance is the ksuba, right? So the ksuba, the wife, or her children, the second wife get, and then they split the rest of the nachala evenly, right? Part of the nachala was the ksuba. They split kobel and nachala. The ksuba that they get from their mother is before the rest of the inheritance, but really there's no ksuba being different of the first son. Why do you have to say the inheritors of Rishon? Right? It sounds like they inherit something from their mother. So I did a Tana Shnia of Yerusha, the Yerusha Rishona. Just because we wanted to talk about Shnia and her inheritors, which is a ksuba, so too we also mention Yerusha Rishona, even though technically all they get is the regular inheritance. With the Gamra, ksuba nas is most of the chaverta. That which we asserted from the Mishnah, we proved from the Mishnah that ksuba itself could become the moser. You don't need a moser dinar. Dimul olam emolach. And ksuba nas is most of the chaverta. Ksuba itself is not considered extra property. Who the ika moser dinar? Maybe the Mishnah doesn't say it, but it was talking about where there is a moser, an extra dinar to split in the inheritance. Achas b'chayav achas amoso. So the Gemara goes back to the first deduction from Mishnah. Achas b'chayav achas amoso. The Gemara says, in fact, tanahi it's machos hanayim. The Sanya of a brisa mesu achas b'chayav achas b'moso. Right, one wife died while he was alive, and then he married a second wife, and then he predeceased her. Benanas omer. In that case, Yichol b'nei Rishon, Lomer b'nei Shnia, b'nei Balas Chov Atem, through Ksubas Imchem B'tzu. Right, the children from the first wife can say to the second wife, take your Ksuba and leave. Rabbi Kiva Omer Kfar Katz Kafsa Nachla Melifnei b'nei Rishona, B'nachla b'nei Shnia. No, once, right, Achas b'chayav achas b'mos. So he predeceases his second wife. If he predeceases his second wife, so therefore the Yerusha goes, the initial chov goes to the second wife, right? And therefore they have entitlement over the first children. What is a machlot ben Anas and Rabbi Akiva? The Martha Achas b'chayav achas b'mos, the Yishtan Ksulas being different. Ben Anas obviously holds, right, that they entitled to Ksulas being different. The Martha Achas b'chayav achas b'mos, so Eilan Ksulas being different. Rabbi Akiva would hold They don't have Kesubos been indifferent. That's why he says it goes to the second one, not to the first one. I'm a Rabbah. Rabbah says, I found the Talmidim in the yeshiva, the Yasiv Amri, they were sitting and saying, everyone agrees, Achas Pachayov, Achas B'moso Yeshen Kesubos been indifferent. Everyone agrees in this case, the case of our Mishnah, the safe of our Mishnah, there is Kesubos been indifferent. What was the Machlos Tanayim between Bananas and Rabbi Akiva? Kesubos Nas Moser the Chaverta. Whether a Kesuva becomes a Moser Chaverta, also a Balchov. Let's say you have a woman, this man owed someone money for a loan, and also he had a Kesuvas Isha, right? So, Marsav Aksuva Nas Moser Chaverta, Huadin the Balchov, right? Also, when you want to institute Kesuva has been indifferent, when there's also not just another Kesuva, a second wife, there's also a Balchov. So, again, you don't want to obfuscate, you don't want to abrogate Yerusha Dal Raisa, so it would become a Mosar Chaverta. The Kesuva itself, the Kesuva being different itself, would be a Mosar, considered a Mosar. You're not abrogating Yerusha Dal Raisa, and also by Balchov. Marsav and Kesuva Nas Mosar Chaverta within the Balchov. And the other opinion holds Kesuva Nas is Mosar Chaverta within the Balchov. Right, and the second one, they could get the Kesubos been indifferent in that case, right? That's what Benana said. And I said to them, Ana b'Balchov kuli amalo pligi to have a mimosar. When it comes to a Balchov and a Kesuva, so the Balchov, everyone agrees that the Kesuva has been indifferent. It's a mosar. Ki pligi b'Kesuva. Aflogi, this is by a Kesuva. Maskil Rav Yosef. Yosef asked the following question: Yihachi Rabbi Akiva Omer Kvar Kapsa Nachala. Right, if you're saying they're arguing about whether the Kesuva is considered a mosar. What's this lashon of the nachal jumped? If yesh moser dinar mibayil, it should have said if there's a moser dinar, then you can do it. If not a moser dinar, you can't do it. Elam Yosef b'achas b'chayav b'achas moser kanufli. Really, the machloka has nothing to do with whether the ksuva is nasas moser. The second deduction from our Mishnah is really about the first, like we said originally, that's what they're arguing about. Kahani Tanai, Kihani Tanai, and the previous Tanai, Benanas and Rabbi Akiva argue like the following Tanai, the same machloka. Sanya. The Brisa says, Nasa Rishon of a Mesa, Nasa is a Shni of a Mesu, right? He marries the first one, then she dies. Then he marries the second wife, and he dies first. He predeceases her. Vayin B'nei Shalzula Achar Misa V'notin Ksuas Iman. So the children, presumably were understanding of the second wife, they come and take their Ksuas Iman. Rishon Omer, if there's an extra, if they have enough money for both Kesubos and an extra dinar left over to split Yerusha Daraisa, then there is Kesubos been different. If there's not enough of both Kesubos and a Moser dinar, then they split it even. Aren't they arguing the following? Right? Reb Shimon says only if there's a Moser dinar. So according to the Tanakama, he holds even there's not a Moser dinar. So he holds they have a Kesubos been different. And then Kesubos been indifferent. Shimon says that you get Kesubos been indifferent. So he's the one who holds Kesubos been different. If there's a Moser dinar, at least he needs at least a Moser dinar. But there is a concept of Kesubos been different. What does Tanakama argue on him? He argues. He says they're not entitled to Kesubos been different in this case. The Gemara says low. The Gemara rejects the fully alma achas pechayav achas moso yeshan Kesubos been different. Like our Mishnah says, everyone agrees there would be an entitlement of Kesubos been different if there was enough money for the second Kesuba. V'hacha Daf Sadi Aleph and Aleph top V'hacha b'dinar mekarkai kamifli. Let's say, right, technically both Kesubas should be paid, and the Kesubas been different are entitled to from the first one. Of course, the second, the wife and her Yorshim come first, but if there's enough for both, then there is Kesubos been different from the first. They're arguing about if the Moser dinar, right? You need a Moser dinar according to these Tanoim. It's of land. Marsav or Mekarkayim Metaltilo. You have the Moser dinar of real estate. Marsav Afilu Metaltile, right? And one opinion holds, Reb Shimon says, as long as there's anything, right? That's the second opinion. Reb Shimon says, even if there's a Moser dinar Metaltile, a movable object, that's good enough for the Yerusha Daraisa. And the Tanakama holds, no, you need a Mekarkai. Metaltile is not considered a Moser dinar. They're arguing about a totally different machlokas about Moser dinar. The Yerusha Daraisa, could it be even from movable objects or only from karkos? We'll get more into this Moser dinar as we go forward. And Kulas many different. Stay tuned for Ian with Ben Sion when we talk more about the way this works over here. Achas b'chayav, achas b'moso. normally, why would there be a Kesubos being different? That's the whole discussion on Sadi Amud B. Is there a Kesubos being different, not Kesubos being different? I'm going to explain the Machlokes a little better and try to figure out why we do pasuk, and there is a Kesubos being different. Why did they institute it in this case? How does it work? The mechanics coming up next.